Hello and welcome to the DAZN Soccer Show. The international break is now done. International football is in the rear view, at least until the World Cup kicks off November 20th. But the Premier League is back and we have a fantastic fixture list for you this weekend, starting with the North London Derby, which kicks off Saturday. It's a lunchtime kickoff. It's first versus third. It's Arsenal versus Spurs. And we've got a couple of Arsenal legends as well to break this one down for us. Just the 8 league titles between them. Martin Keown joins us and Lianne Sanderson joins us as well. Martin, I want to start with you. I always felt, watching you in your area of Premier League domination, the biggest game was Arsenal versus Manchester United, right? How far behind, or how big was the North London derby to you?
Well, having come through the ranks at Arsenal, it was always a huge game for me. Living in digs in South London, nearer to the Tottenham ground, just about than the Arsenal ground. My landlord was steeped in everything Tottenham, so I was desperate to play against them when I finally played in the youth team. Played against them in the reserves youth team, and then made my debut in a derby game '85. Back in '85, Clive Allen up front for Spurs, 60 odd thousand fans at Highbury on an icy pitch, the only game that went ahead that day. So always were a pleasure to play in them. Local bragging rights, and of course in that real key period for Arsenal, we sort of dominated. It was always a game where Tottenham felt they could get something from their season if they could stop us or deny us winning a Premier League. So that was uppermost in my mind, sort of around the 99, 2000. Think of Canoe, sticking the ball over his opponent's head, smashing it in for a victory at Wyatt Lane. So we had some good days there, and both teams now re-emerging, really. Arsenal particularly, Conte, outstanding manager. How on earth did they get to the top 4 last season? So I think it's going to be an absolute cracker tomorrow morning. Saturday morning.
Yeah, it's going to be a good game. Arsenal for years, right? In the noughties, in the 90s, Arsenal dominated this fixture. Of recent times, it's got really close to the point where maybe you feel like Spurs go into this game potentially as favourites. Just how good are these two teams now?
Well, I think that the acquisitions that Spurs made in January were quite brilliant. Kulusevski coming in at right wing, Bentancur in midfield. So if you look at the manager, everything he does, the decisions he makes, he's a really pragmatic manager. And a lot of people talking about systems with the England team. We've just had the international football. He's a black belt when it comes to playing with a back three. Likes to play 4 across the middle with 3 up top now. Currently, he's played various variations of this system into Milan and Juventus. So he really knows what he's about. But I think in Arsenal now they have Arteta, Jesus coming in, Zinchenko. The bar has been raised, and the atmosphere they're fine. Those Spurs players, what we're walking into at the weekend, is now quite unique again at the Emirates. I've not seen anything like it since they've been there. Fantastic atmosphere. So we'll be a cracker.
Yeah, it should be. Leanne, let's talk about the key players on both sides. Obviously, you just heard Martin there mention Kulusevski and Kane. On Arsenal side, Jesus and Zinchenko have been really good. Where do you feel that the battles will be won and lost in this fixture?
Yeah, I think, obviously Saliba started the season very, very well. I think a lot of people were surprised he was starting. I think the key battles will come between Kane and Saliba. I think Son will come back into the lineup again. I mean, Conte, to touch on what Martin said, looks like a tactical genius, bringing him off the bench to get to Leicester. He scored a hat trick in 30 minutes. And Son just looked like a player that needed a bit of a break. He's a great player. We all know he is. I think at times he goes underrated a lot of the time. I think I've mentioned it before. If he was English, if it was, he's better than Mason Mount, and we talk about Mason Mount all the time. Son is on a completely different level. So I think the key matchups will come there. Jesus, he's had a fantastic start to the season. What a signing he's been. And, I just think this game, I was at the WSL North London Derby last weekend, and in the women's game, we never used to play against Tottenham that much because they were in the league below. But last weekend, if Arsenal can replicate what the women did last weekend and win 4-0 at the Emirates, I mean, these games are so special. And my dad's a Gooner. As you know, I'm a Man United fan, but I used to go to Highbury all the time to watch any game of football I could. And I remember, these North London derbies. There's a different feeling around the stadium. The fans are talking about it when the fixture list came out when I was a kid. The only thing we used to look at was Arsenal Man United, and me and my dad used to have banter about that. And then obviously Arsenal Tottenham is what all the Arsenal fans and the Tottenham fans look out for. And as Martin said, last year when Conte, how Tottenham made the top 4, I don't know. But I think the fact that he brought in Kulusevski and Bentancur from Juventus, players that he knew and brought them in there. And Arsenal threw it away in the end. Realistically, everybody thought Arsenal were going to make the top 4. But I've got to give Arteta a lot of credit because, I've questioned him quite a number of times, because I didn't see a clear plan for Arsenal. But now you can see it coming into fruition. And Odegaard, I mean, if he's fit and he can play, what a player he is. You know, my dad actually, my best player for Arsenal was Dennis Bergkamp ever. I used to go to Highbury just to watch him. And when you look at Odegaard, if you watch him live, I don't think you fully understand how good Odegaard is until you watch him live. His movement, his touch, everything. And it reminds me of Dennis Bergkamp quite a lot. I'm not saying he's Bergkamp. I'm saying he just shows glimpses.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
and to be fair, he does show glimpses, and that's why I guess he's got the captain's armband as well, because he also has those that leader quality as well. Martin, when you look at both sides, Arsenal going into this game off the back of a 3-0 win against Brentford, could have been 6. Tottenham did put 6 past Leicester. Who do you think's going into this game on the best run of form?
Goodness me. Well, we all know that it's very equal. I think that's the best performance I've seen from Arsenal under Arteta since he's been the manager there. Because you don't go to Brentford and beat them 3-0. That doesn't happen. And Arsenal have gone and done it. You know, Leanne's talking about the 2 central defenders. I think that's a really important ingredient. So there's a nice platform for them to go and build from. Xhaka now is becoming a fan's favourite. Whoever thought we'd hear anybody say that? And then all these great players, Martinelli, Saka. I just think it will be tactically fascinating. I'm covering the game in commentary with Jermaine Jenis. And I just feel that maybe the Tottenham midfield could get outnumbered because the Arsenal players, Odegaard likes to drift in off the right, just in behind the opposition's midfield. And that back three, if you can drag somebody out of there, Jesus will run you into the channels. I wouldn't be fancying playing against Jesus. I think he's got extra gears. I think he's a really threatening player. But tactically, I think it is really. But they're so pragmatic, Tottenham. They don't care. They'll be patient and they'll try and get Arsenal on the counter-attack, as they did last season. Do you remember Holding being sent off, got into a battle with Son?
Yeah.
That can't happen. That can't happen this time. You can't leave the Arsenal central defenders exposed as they did against Tottenham last year.
Go on, Lianne.
I know a lot of people are talking about Eric Dyer this year as well, and I think that's a lot to do with Antonio Conte. But for me, you know, we talk about matchups. I think Jesus will have the better of him all day long. I really do. Obviously, Tottenham play the back three; they switch it around quite often. But I think Eric Dyer, he's certainly come alive in the last, year or so under Conte. But for me, Jesus will get the better of him, and I'll be rubbing my hands together if I was Jesus.
Score predictions. Arsenal could go 4 points clear. Tottenham unbeaten this season alongside Man City. Who wins it? Go on.
2-1 to Arsenal. I have no doubt about it.
We'll speak to you again on Monday. Lianne, what are you thinking?
Oh, I'm going 3-2 Arsenal. I think there's going to be a lot of goals scored in this game.
Yeah, look, should be an absolutely cracking game. North London derby. Again, as I said, first versus third. Arteta versus Conte. Jesus versus Kane. So many matchups all over the pitch. We'll break this one down for you next week.